sorry. We're going to call this workshop of the Martin County School Board to order. If you would all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Falls, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. DeTerlizzi?
Here.
Mrs. Russell?
Here.
Mrs. Pritchett?
Here.
Mrs. Powers?
Here. And just let the record reflect that Mrs. Roberts is not here today, or right now. Okay, at this time, we will have open to the public. Citizen input is vital to the improvement of our district. Most times your remarks may be listened to without comment from the board members or superintendent. This does not mean they are heard with any less intensity or concern. When appropriate, the superintendent and staff will investigate your comments and report back to you and the board with an answer. We thank you for taking the time and having the concern to make your district better. Your presentation to the board should not exceed 3 minutes. And you can let me know if you would like to speak at the workshop, or if you would, we have a special meeting following if you would like to speak there. Our first speaker is Dr. Blanche Wells.
Thank you. As I've said before, my name is Blanche Wells. My doctorate is in National Educational Leadership and with emphasis in crisis management in public schools. And I'm also a Florida licensed mental health counselor. I was 25 years in this district at both the high school and elementary level, as well as high school teacher and counselor at 3 very fine schools in New Jersey and also in Marathon. I'm here today, and I appreciate and say this with respect, but I'm very concerned about the leadership of this very, very excellent school district. We were a powerhouse, both scholastically and on the field and in the arts, winning national awards in character education in how we dealt with students with special needs. And I see that slipping away from us. And I understand that the people on this board did not make the rules, but you represent us in this county. And I'm concerned that the excellence of this school system is slipping away. Why? Because I know that teachers don't feel they are trusted. That's never been the case. It used to be that even though people earned more money working in the counties to either side of us, they chose to work here because of the camaraderie, because of the relationships in the school. And those are crucial to learning, not only for us adults, but we're all here, and I believe you are too, for the children. But we need to be here for all of the children, and every one of the children, whether they're LGBTQ, whether they're woke is what they believe in, need to have dignity extended to them at all times. And frankly, I don't think that's true in our public school at this time. Last time I was here, there was great appreciation for how compliant we are to the many changes coming down from Tallahassee. And I would wish that we were not so compliant. Why should we be among the top people banning books in such a small county when Dade and Monroe have banned practically none? What it is that are we doing? And also, would you please let us know where our tax dollars are going? I know that you haven't been the people who have instituted all the changes, but we don't know where those tax dollars. We're a donor county. We pay taxes not only for...
Thank you. Thank you. And I would welcome you to reach out to the superintendent directly. We have a very public budget process that we go through, as well as share any specifics that you have of issues that are happening in our schools. I mean, that's really important to all of us. I know if there are children being mistreated or there's examples of that that you can share, it will be helpful to the superintendent to be able to address that. Thank you. And I will share with him your contact information as well. Neil Colvin.
I'm a lawyer, 43, 44 years. Before that, I was an Air Force munitions officer for 8 years and decided I'd rather practice law. And last month, I came in and was handed out a book called Devil in the Grove, about the Groveland Four. And today I'm promoting another couple books for the libraries and the high schools if they don't have them. This book is called Hiroshima. It was written in 1946 by John Hersey after interviewing individuals who survived ground zero of the Hiroshima atomic bomb blast. It was a bestseller when I taught English in college in 1960, or 68, I'm sorry, it's old. I made my kids read it, and they all loved it and were scared by it. I don't see any reason why a book like this shouldn't be in the library today to equally scare kids into knowing what nuclear weapons are, what they do, because we have worldwide confrontation at the moment with this thing. It's not something to take lightly. Number two, the book is You Have to Be Prepared to Die Before You Can Begin to Live. It's the 10 weeks of black public school student demonstrations in Birmingham, peaceful, walking in the streets, having confrontations with the Birmingham police under Sheriff Bull Connor, being water cannoned, being set upon by dogs, being tear gassed, led by their black ministers day after day after day. This is an extremely well-documented book that also traces this directly to the Kennedy administration's submission to the Congress of the Civil Rights Bill. Became the 1964 Civil Rights Bill. So I'm proposing these two books to be brought in. I can hand them off to Security Chief. And last Sunday's devotional, I'm an Episcopalian, last Sunday's devotional, which is passed around to all Episcopal churches, reads as follows. Hear this, O rulers of the house of Jacob, chiefs of the house of Israel, who abhor justice and prevent equity, who build Zion with blood and Jerusalem with wrong. They seem like isolated decisions. A church locks the doors, keeping out hurricane refugees. A community makes it harder for people of color to vote, bans books, and to tell about them in the library. We allow an income gap for the rich and poor to grow even wider over time. We have built a city with blood and wrong. We proclaim ourselves a Christian nation, but so often that doesn't seem to be possible with God looking on in anger. When harm does come,
Thank you. Thank you. Next up is Patrice Kelty.
I'm here to discuss or talk about the issue with the reading scores here in Martin County. According to Martin Reed's, the literacy campaign here, 51% of our children in third grade are reading at grade level. That means 49% of these kids are not reading at grade level. In fact, on average, only 50% of the kids at each grade read on grade level, except for sixth grade. That's an outlier because only 43% of those kids are reading on grade level. So these kids who are in middle school are not prepared. You're in sixth grade, pinnacle time of your life. So to me, it tells me we're failing our kids at so many levels. One, we're failing them in kindergarten, first and second. These kids are under so much intense pressure, they're not learning basics because they're being forced into something that they're not prepared for mentally and developmentally, sorry, right? And then you come into third grade and there becomes a whole new push for social engineering. And now instead of really further pushing down and teaching them skills on grammar and the functions of English language. We're changing pronouns, and we're taking something that means plural and turning it into one person. And that becomes an issue because you're further confusing these children. Social engineering is destroying our kids. It's setting them up. They've become emotional. The suicide rate is off the chart, and they're unable to learn. Our concern really needs to be educating these children and preparing them for the future. These kids in 10, 15, 18 years need to put food on the table. They will not put food on the table if they cannot read, because they will not be employable. We will become a nation of slaves. These children will not be able to care for themselves, and they will not be able to care for us as we're aging into adults. I work every day, and I work with these kids who are 20 and 30, and I don't know how they got through college. There's another study that says 75% of high school kids are not prepared to leave school. They're scared. They have no idea, no life skills. Now, I know that's on the parents. But that should also, we're so concerned with teaching kids all about their sexuality. Let's teach them how to balance a checkbook. Let's teach them how to fill out their voter registration card. Let's teach them how to cook. Maybe just some basic life skills. Because we're so focused on hypersexualizing children, we're getting away from the true meaning of this education, and that is to teach and prepare these children for a future, to put food on their table and to raise their families. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Dr. Robert Hess.
I am Dr. Robert Hess, a nurse for almost 50 years and an educator for 30, including teaching normal child growth and development. Full-time Martin County resident, registered Republican. I'm the parent of a son, Robert III, who went to public school where he was allowed to read whatever he wanted. He was an Eagle Scout, and after college, he joined the Coast Guard and made me a Gold Star father. He died 30 years ago, and I am still proud of him. I've written 2 books and a couple hundred articles. I care deeply about the written word. America has voted nursing as its most trusted profession every year since 2002. We're also the only profession that is educated to assess what is normal, and trust me, removing some of the books that you have allowed to be snatched from library bookshelves is neither normal nor conducive to the development of children's minds. I went to university to become a minister and did graduate with an undergraduate degree in comparative religion with a concentration in cults, particularly Christian ones, which is why my mind was blown to find Judy Picoult's Change of Heart on the banned list. There's no sex or gender discussion in this book, none. The closest that comes to controversy is a discussion of spiritual redemption through organized religion or an individual path. It presents a moral discussion that's so critical to the development of one's personal moral compass. The attempt to take growth options away from adolescents is destined to fail, and so is this misguided attempt to shield or otherwise insulate adolescents from material that encourages critical thinking is morally bereft. If I was a high school English teacher, I'd make this book required reading, and I believe that whoever participated in the removal of this book did not read it. In fact, I don't think that few of the people or people behind the removed books read any of them. They might have looked at the pictures. There are no pictures in Change of Heart. I respectfully ask how I can facilitate the review of the removal status of this book with an inclination to perhaps returning it to circulation. If a parent doesn't want their children to read it, they and they alone should opt out for their children. Please allow parents the liberty to determine what their children read. Individual parents shouldn't be able to usurp that freedom from other parents. This is America, for God's sake, so let's freedom ring. And I expect to hear back from somebody in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Cindy Summers.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, members of the board and Superintendent Maine. My name is Cindy Summers. How do you prevent over 3 million Floridian students from receiving a well-rounded education. An education that teaches them that there are people different than they are, people of different races, religions, cultures, ethnicities, and gender identities, and that these differences should not be seen as a threat, but as an opportunity to develop understanding, empathy, and compassion. How do you deprive 3 million Floridian students of an education that doesn't hide from them the bitter truths of racism, anti-Semitism, the horrors of slavery, and the atrocity of the Holocaust? There are 3 ways. First, find a book that deals with real issues, racism or gender identity. Then go through the objection process with the school board. The outcome will most certainly result in the book being banned. Martin County last year had 98 of the 110 book challenges last year, 98 of the challenge books were banned. Ban means prohibit. Remove means take away. A school board has a strong motivation to ban books. The threat of a third-degree felony looms over their heads. The second way is to attend a school board meeting and read out loud portions of a book about real-life issues. Read passages that misrepresent what the book is about, passages that are taken out of context. Read them until the board tells you to stop. The book is banned. The third way is to choose a book, any book, that has been banned in another Florida school district and request it be banned in yours. It will be banned. Or you may not have to do anything. The school may pull the books on their own. You might find a superintendent like the one in Charlotte County who, on his own, directed librarians to remove all books with LGBTQ characters. 3 million Floridian students ill-prepared to face the real world.
Okay, that concludes public comment. We will now move on to the superintendent's evaluation. This is a discussion item for the board. I'm gonna pull up my, So we attached some samples of superintendent evaluations. I don't know if the board has questions, preferences on how we want to move forward, but also the timing of the superintendent's first evaluation. Anybody from the board want to go first? I know I submitted one that is required in statute it was required in statute, and it is for Early Learning Coalition CEOs that report to DOE. And this was formulated by University of Florida. So I think it's been peer reviewed and looked at. I actually like this format a lot better than what we had before. There were so many, there was a lot of very specific things. It was more, our current evaluation instrument reads more like goals and objectives almost. I think this is much broader and more appropriate. So looking for feedback from the rest of the board members on the direction that we want to go.
I feel that one was clear and easy to read. Also, timeline. I don't know if there's a specific time that we have to have this done, but I feel like giving him a year and maybe due June 1st would be a good time to evaluate him. That way he's got a full year to show us what he's doing and implement his 90-day plan and then go from there.
Any other input from the board members?
I also liked this format. The only thing that I would say, and I don't know how it could be done, is to have more than one ability to comment, like maybe comment in each of the areas or the most vital areas. So I kind of liked Penella's comments, and the evaluation that you put forth is the one that I feel is the strongest, but I'd like to see some more comments, narrative ability.
Well, and obviously, we'll need to work with the superintendent and staff to really make it very specific to our pillars and goals and objectives and things like that that we want. But I think we just need to agree kind of on what the format is going to look like. And then we can kind of work
Okay.
after this meeting to really bring something forward with the superintendent's input on areas like our domains, how we want them, if we want to go back to the same way that we did them before. So, Mrs. Roberts?
Yeah, the only thing that I think we need to be sure that we add in is that we add in some data components. So some components that have to do with performance, student performance, graduation rates, those type of things.
Yeah, and I feel like, a lot of times with this tool specifically, just because I'm familiar with it, is when I'm being evaluated, or you bring with you, like, if you're getting rated, you bring with you the
Proof.
the backup, the proof, like, okay, here are the things, like in this performance indicator, if it's financial stability, or financial sustainability, I'm gonna bring with me my, data that backs up why I should get the rating or not when I'm having that discussion.
Right. I agree.
Okay. So do we, Mr. Roberts, when you say data components, do we want that to be goals and objectives, or do you want it just as supporting documents when we do the evaluation?
So I think when I looked at it, I'm looking at under domain 7, which was optional. If you put something in there that
Okay.
had to do with graduation rate, had to do with reading scores, whatever, school grades, that type of information. I mean, I think that's the kind of,
So we need to be specific on what we're gonna ask for. Obviously, graduation rate's easy, and if we're gonna see, we wanna see historical data, correct? Because you're gonna wanna see what it was last year compared to what it is this year, and look at the things that have been implemented over time. Same with reading scores. Do we wanna look at a certain, you wanna look at all grades? Like, think about how extensive of the data we want to be included, and how you want that format presented when when it comes time to do the evaluation, so that we're not all asking for different information. So if it's, so it's grad rate, reading scores. I think math we should be asking for that too. And we want to ask across grades, across all grades?
yeah, I mean, I was thinking more, obviously what we need to be looking for is growth, right? So, I mean, when you're looking at graduation rate, that type of thing. I mean, but I think the other piece is whether it's school grades, the components that go into what a school grade is or a district grade. Obviously, the school grade and the district grades are going to drill down on the math scores and the reading scores. I mean, I think we're going to,
Well, I think if we're gonna use school grades, that can be really deceiving. I'm not a fan of the school grade as an indicator, because you can have schools that are an A school, but only 40% of the kids are reading on grade level, or even sometimes a little bit lower than that. So to me, that's not a measure. So we can look at what those domains are and decide which domains we want to pull out. And then we can bring back a recommendation.
sure, that sounds good.
Anything else that we want to add or I mean, obviously, this is just a format, and then we'll bring back very specific to what we do. But any other supporting documentation that you all would like to see? And I guess Superintendent Maine, you can work with the board members individually so that we make sure that it's in the format that, so we're all getting it in the same format and it has all the information that everybody wants and needs to do the evaluation. Are you guys good with that? Mm-hmm. Okay. And how about timing? Do we want to, I'm good with a year. Sometimes I don't even know if a year is enough. It takes a lot, but a year to, like June 1 to do the evaluation, our target around June 1? Okay. So when would we be getting, that is a tricky time of year too, because we won't have all the data yet to really see, to measure that growth in those indicators that the components that we're talking about. We will not have that information yet. What, timing-wise, what would that look like? When would be a good time? Because we want to get this on an annual kind of set and.
It's going to be a little wonkier this year because of the delay, but however, I do think late July, if we're setting up for future cycles, late July would give enough time typically for those school grade components to be released. We may not hit that this year because of that delay, but on a typical cycle, the end of July would be, give or take, around the time school grades would be released, and we would know that information.
So do we want to set a date like September 1, that way, or around that time of September 1?
Sure.
Okay, we have a plan. Any other questions or comments on this item from the board? All right. Next up, we have Dan Moore and Shannon Armstrong with retention information.
Madam Chair, members of the board. Can you hear it? Oh, there we go. Madam Chair, members of the board, and Superintendent Maine, I'm Shannon Armstrong. I'm the Director of HR, and I am very grateful to have this opportunity to share with you some important information about retention and our focus. One of the things that we had discussed when we were with USHCA that has really provided us a lot of information and kind of direction in regards to human capital leaders in our district. And one of those things is kind of recognizing the areas of recruitment and retention as a whole circle and kind of what we do with that circle. And one of those things that kind of leads our work is Ed Week had come out with a report that in 2022, 44% of teachers were likely or very likely to leave the field. So what does that say to us when we're looking at that? Is how do we keep the people that we have? And that's kind of what was the driving force of creating a retention committee. In that committee, we recognize that data is an important place to start. So we created a subcommittee, which Dan here has led. And so with that, we've taken things like our exit surveys as well as additional data that ET has been able to provide us and sort it, and it kind of tells a story. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Dan so he can share a little bit about that data.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent, thank you for having me. So when we started with this work, we didn't know a whole lot about where our retention recruitment issues were. And so we had a lot of data to work through. And so we kind of picked a time period to look at. We picked the last 4 years. And we combed through a lot of data to form a lot of hypotheses and, chase those down to kind of come up with some conclusions that are outlined in the executive summary that is attached to today's agenda item. And so we picked the last 4 years. We thought that would be a good representative sample that gave us enough teachers to really look at and determine where our trends were, what was happening with these teachers, and it was a manageable number for this subcommittee. And it's also, close enough in time to where the data is still relevant. As we explored that data, we found out that the number of teachers we've lost over the last 4 years is significant. And so our running average over the last 4 years is a little over 1,000 teachers, and we have lost 456 of them over those 4 years. As we started digging into that data, we wanted to learn where did they come from. We wanted to see if it's a school problem. Is it certain schools where we're losing teachers? Is it changes in leadership? So we tracked attrition with leaders in schools. We wanted to see if it was a zoning issue. Are we losing more teachers from the West Zone than we are from other zones? We wanted to see, if it was a salary issue. We wanted to see how long had these teachers been here. And when we got to the question about how long teachers had been here, the data became really clear. So 42% of the teachers we've lost over the last 4 years are category 0 to 3, which means they've been in our district less than 3 years. So, 0 years of experience up to 3. When we removed regular retirements from that, it's over half. And so what that data indicates to us is that we're having a problem keeping our newer teachers. As we surveyed those teachers, we looked at exit surveys, we contacted school principals. We wanted to find out really why these teachers were leaving and where they were going. They're not leaving the profession, and so working with educator certification at Florida Department of Education, we're able to track their district affiliations. More than half of those teachers that have left have gone either to West Palm Beach or St. Lucie, and so they're not leaving the profession, they're just leaving Martin County. When we look at the exit survey data to find out why they're leaving, there's kind of 3 categories we're able to distill it down to. One of them is inadequate systems of support, one is salary and benefits, and one is personal and family reasons. The biggest one is not salary and benefits. In fact, that is the smallest percentage of reason people are leaving. So 28% of the folks that left in those of those category 0 to 3 teachers, the majority of them, 37%, left because of inadequate systems of support, and that could be pressure on the job, it could be stress from the job, it could be not feeling supported. We had to kind of take all the different data from the exit surveys to really distill it down into something meaningful. 35% left for personal and family reasons, so there's not much we can do about that. There's not a whole lot indicated in that data. And inadequate salary and benefits is not something we can deal with right now. There's not a simple solution we can put in place to address that. So in that larger category of systems of support, at 37%, that's where the committee felt was where we should put our emphasis to find a right now solution to try to stem the attrition rates that we're seeing across our schools. And it's not any specific school where we're losing folks. It's not, related to principal turnover. It comes down to, these brand new teachers are coming in ill-equipped for the job. Majority of teachers that we're seeing now are on temporary certificates. They're not coming from a college of education. They don't have that background. And we need to make sure that as we're putting them into classrooms, we're providing them with supports that will help them be successful. Because what we see is every year that they're here, in the data, that they're more and more likely to stay. And so of that 52% of teachers in category 0 to 3 that are leaving in that time period, more than half of them are after that first year. And so if we get them through that first year, the chance of them going somewhere else drops by half. And then it drops by another 10% if we get to year 3, and we see that trend continue the longer they're here. And so if we can front load some supports to help those teachers be successful so that they stay here, we're much more likely to keep them long term. As our committee went through how do we do that, we came up with some recommended actions and some ideas on where do we start. And so our new Director of Recruitment and Retention, Jeff Raymond, is going to talk about our starting points and how we think the best way to get to this solution is.
Good evening, Madam Chair. This one is on. Because you have to press the button, and I'm a rookie. Welcome. Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Main, members of the community, Jeff Raymond, brand new Director of Recruitment and Retention. I had an opportunity to speak to the DAC members last night, the District Advisory Council Committee. And I led with the fact that recruitment and retention is a tough topic right now across the country. And so when I was introduced at a meeting a week ago at negotiations, it's a small room, and I heard someone share, like, good luck to him. And it's all in the emphasis on the wording versus where the good luck was coming from. But either way, I will take it. My interactions with the committee is like yours. I heard the data after a group had already pulled it, so I've been wrapping my brain around what could I bring in my new role. So in the next few minutes, I'm not being timed, but I'll keep it brief. I would just share for you my interpretation of the data, my perspective as a school site principal. and a plan of action. So I asked Chris Hall if he would put a visual up to kind of depict my vision, if you will, for my Martin, understanding that the district has 2,500 employees. So there's 2,500 different versions of my Martin. And from a recruitment lens, it's very easy to sell the living as to why Martin, beautiful downtown and beautiful beaches. The other parts for my Martin include an opportunity to lead in your community. And the final piece in my Martin, or why I come to Martin, is the opportunity to fall in love with the district that I believe has the incredible opportunity to make a difference in our students and the future leaders. So from a visual perspective, I wanted you to see where I'm coming from in terms of my Martin, but understanding I have to hear from 2,500 other my Martiners and get our story out there. So the next slide is a little bit of a recap to starting points. I really want to preface, these are suggestions, these are observations, maybe at a workshop, these are things to consider. My first observation would be with the starting point of creating the Teacher Retention Input Committee. Starting the work was important that Dan shared, but missing from that first committee was teacher voice. It was interesting to learn that nearly 40% of our teammates who are leaving us were not leaving due to salary. They were leaving due to lack of systems of support per exit surveys. So having teacher voice is critical to retaining our teammates. And I would tell you, as the principal, I did a simple survey. It was one question. And I asked the team at IMS, what would it take to retain you outside of finances? And I learned the most simple things. Please don't change my classroom again. You've done it 3 years in a row. Box checked. Please move my classroom. My neighbor is not making things nice for me. Box checked. Easy deliverables. But if we don't ask the simple question, we don't have an opportunity to make a change. An exit survey, some people call it an autopsy report in terms of it's too late. They've already left. So bullet 1, teacher input, teacher retention input committee. Bullet 2 talks about pulse surveys, and so I shared a pulse survey at Indiantown Middle School. It was one question, and I'd like to poll everyone. From my lens, it doesn't matter to me whether you are a member of a union or not. We need to poll 100% of our teachers and get their input. What are the things that are within our control, non-financial, that we, and I would say we as a collective district leaders, can influence. So pulse surveys, listening tours, going out to buildings, going out to schools, listening, and attempting to act on the things we can box checked. The third item, Shannon led with USHCA, which is an acronym for Urban Schools of Human Capital Academy. But principals are now being asked to be human capital leaders, in case you didn't know. And so I was one of them last year. And at first I was thinking like, wow, HR wants me to do the work of the recruitment and the retention. But I would argue that the principal has the greatest influence on retention in our school district. People love their principals. Some come to the podium to speak about their principal. Some leave because of their principal. So leveraging principals in recruitment and retention is critical. So Assistant Superintendent of HR, Julie Sessa, and our team will be working with, we can't just give you the hat and say, you're a human capital leader. We have to show you strategies, but what can you do for the 40% who are leaving because they felt they weren't supported? So leveraging principals is a priority option on the table. The fourth bullet, Shannon Armstrong has already created human resource ambassadors. These are people who are volunteering to spread the good word about what's happening in Martin County, because it's going to take more than the guy that someone said good luck to him to come up with the solution to a national teacher shortage crisis. So HR ambassadors are extremely appreciated, and tapping into them to share our story. The fourth item up there, or maybe we're up to, well, the next one, I've lost count because they're not numbered, but expanding kudos and recognition of our teammates and highlighting why Martin with the social media campaign. It can't just be me. I can't do a selfie video and tell you why Martin, although I did one. But here's who needs to tell the story. Why Martin has to be told from parents, people in this room, third graders at Palm City Elementary or at Warfield, teachers, board members, why Martin. I think the onus is on everyone in our community to share why Martin. And recognizing great things, it's our opportunity to tell our story. I could tell you as a principal, I could have done better with recognition. So that'll be something that I absolutely want to expand upon. The next item, major asterisk, emphasis, disclaimer, but I need to bring it to your attention. And I start with the word consider. Consider millage disbursement methods. And here's why. As the principal, the number one reason I was rejected was not because Indiantown was further. It was because we're competing with neighboring districts who were paying out this great millage money that our school board has invested in our teachers. It's what keeps us competitive, so please understand that. But in our neighboring counties, they're getting the money throughout the year. So great interview. I think we are going to reel them in. And they say, but Jeff, I need to make these payments now. My mortgage is this much. The groceries are this much. And so from a competitive lens, all of those disclaimers, I understand it's already been negotiated. So it would take work from two parties, the board and MCA, to decide. But I would tell you, in this new job that I took on, it's very challenging to compete in the Treasure Coast because of that one little caveat. They pay out now, and currently we work a year and then we get it. And I understood the why, but with anything, like we just saw the data, it's just an opportunity to look at something differently. And so that's kind of that item in my best nutshell. The next item talks about reviewing the deliverables and metrics of the new teacher support program. What I would share on that, I said it at DAC, so I guess I got to say it here, because Jennifer Russell was there and heard this, so I would be letting you down. But I feel like our new teacher mentor program is a good faith effort. New teachers need support. The majority of new teachers have changed careers. They didn't go to college to become a teacher. So what we have are these teachers in Martin County, mentor teachers that are attempting to mentor our teachers in 0 to 3 years of experience. But the problem is they're teaching all day. So the opportunity to help a new teacher is after school. And based upon the look of the room, most people are a little tired at the end of a day. And imagine a classroom teacher. So when we look at the metrics and the deliverables, the program is in place. But I think we need to look at what we're asking of the mentors and really the delivery model, and could it be better? So again, anything on here, it's an idea of my interpretation of data and recommendations that you're reading about today. If we could help teachers during the day, in the moment, rolling up our sleeves, modeling, that would absolutely help immensely. And perhaps it could be a cost-neutral way because we have talent in schools to do that. The final two bullets, expanding district perks via community support. I need to go to Chamber of Commerce meetings and share our data. And so this can't be the big ticket item, but whatever our community members could do to honor our local heroes is what we often refer to our teachers and employees as. What if your badge got you more of a perk in Martin County because of the badge? So if we could expand upon the perks and our community could help us and tell the story of why Martin, because if you come to Martin, maybe you get a discount on this. Hooray, Martin. The final bullet, retention via recruitment. Thanks to our school board, we're creating a pipeline of paraprofessionals who have associate's degrees, now have an opportunity to earn essentially a no-cost bachelor's degree and become a teacher. This partnership is through Bloom Board and IRSC Teacher Apprentice Program. So I say retention versus recruitment. Paraprofessional is an entry-level position. It is a very hard position in the classroom. And if we're able to retain talent and give them a pathway to become a teacher where we know there's a shortage, it's a great opportunity. So on behalf of the Human Resources team, I thank you for giving us that opportunity. So those are my starting points for hitting the ground running, and we welcome your questions and support.
Any questions from the board?
I have them.
Amy?
With regard to the millage, are you saying that, I want to understand, you're saying that once they come on, they don't have to wait the year, they just start getting paid the millage as the other teachers are who have currently been in the district and working?
Yeah, to provide a very recent example, a teacher is now leaving one of our middle schools because she's been presented a counteroffer. And the situation is, in County B, let's call them, the retention bonus is paid out, let's say, 1 month at a time. So you work September, you earn, let's say the bonus was $10,000. In month 1, you get $1,000. You stick around for month 2, you get the next $1,000. The current system is that if someone new wants to come here, you're gonna have to work the entire year, return to us in September, and then you will receive the money. So the monies do come. It's a delayed bonus. And the point I wanted to illustrate is, it was the #1 reason I was being rejected because of rising costs. Like most of our candidates needed the money now.
Thank you. I actually I like that idea. I like it being paid out on a monthly basis as opposed to chunks. So thank you for bringing that to us.
Ms. Roberts?
Sure, I want to thank you all for this hard work. This is something that is probably a long time coming, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate all the work that you've done with this. Is there a way that you can, in your saying that most of these people we're talking about are not coming from colleges of education, is there a way to do 2 things with your data? One is to eliminate the personal and family reasons so that we can look at the data. You know, the personal and family reasons we don't have any control over. So if we can take those out and kind of look at what our universe looks like without that piece in it, and then also look at the data again with how many of these people are non-traditional, not from a college of education. Because I do think that there is a big difference in what we're doing, and I do think that that's a statewide problem that everybody's seeing, is that you want to support a teacher, et cetera, but your idea of supporting a teacher is different when you're supporting someone who came from a college of education than it is when you're taking somebody who's coming from another job. So, I mean, I think that those 2 things, if we can rework this, I don't think it would be that much. But I mean, just so that we get that kind of information, I think that would really help. But I really do appreciate it. I mean, I found the information very useful and very helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions? So, yes, thank you. This is a long time coming, and I really appreciate it. And I think there are some very simple things that we as a board can do. One is sit down at the table and have those conversations about the millage. But I'm curious about with the millage, was that a universal kind of question or problem with outside of those brand new teachers? I'm just curious if it's the feeling among all of our employees that aren't leaving too, because we want to keep the ones that are staying, like we want to keep them along the year. So is it universally that's what?
I'm glad you asked. So the challenge has been is hearing from 100% of our teachers who receive it. Last year, during the negotiation session, this was on the table, and then it disappeared. From my recollection, MCA pulled it off the table. And what we were informed was that the union membership didn't have an appetite for it. And I guess that's where I went with my statement is, we have to ask 100% of our teachers, and that's really what I love permission to be able to do, to poll and give you data, because some of our current teammates, like my polling is informal. It's going to schools and asking, what do you think? But if we don't ask all of our teachers, we're not getting an accurate representation. So the ask would be, could we ask?
Well, I don't see, I mean, I'm okay with the ask. I don't know if anybody else has any problems. I think that that's very valuable information for us to have as we're having the discussions about how our teachers are paid. So, and quite frankly, it applies to every employee that is receiving the stipend, including our ASME employees, that, you know, we need to understand what works best for them and their families, because in the end, we want to support them outside of school as much as we can as well. And if that's helpful, we certainly should look at options.
That could be an example of a pulse survey. It's literally 1 or 2 questions.
Well, and I think, like you said earlier, really getting teachers to participate in the survey, they have to trust that when you give them a survey that we're going to take action on it. And so I think we have to show that, and that they have to trust that we're valuing their opinion. And if there is a simple fix, like you said, we can check that off the list. That was easy. You know, some of them may be a little more difficult, but truly getting a gauge of wherever they are in their career as a teacher, their priorities are different when you're in year 1 and when you're in year 20. So understanding that and balancing that is, I think, really important, but it also will help the leaders at their schools, because the needs are different for a first-year teacher and a teacher this blanket approach doesn't work. It doesn't work to apply the same standard to brand new teachers that you're applying to our veteran teachers. So I don't know how in-depth we want to go with this survey, but I think it's really important that we start with that and start getting that information from all of our teachers, regardless of where they are. So, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of head shaking that we're okay with this going forward. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
And then if you work on the survey and the information that you're trying to gather, and then, get it out to the superintendent and the school board members, and, we can either add or give some feedback on that. That would be helpful too.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to our school board policies. We have item 4.01 is policies 0124, 1210, 3210, and 4210. And that's standards of ethical conduct. Are there any questions, changes on the board? Comments? The superintendent's recommendation was to accept the Neola recommendation. Is everybody good with that? Okay. We will see this back again soon. Next up is item 4.02, which is policies 1217, 3217, and 4217. And just for the public, it just depends on where you work in the school district. So one policy applies to teachers, one to our ASME and administration. So they're all the same, essentially the same policy. They just apply to different units. Are there any questions or comments about the 3 policies regarding weapons that is going to be rescinded? Okay, seeing none. Item 4.03 is policy 3700, which is the Teacher's Bill of Rights. The superintendent's recommendation is to accept Neola. Page 3 of 3A, which is the designation of the Florida Department of Education contact. Do we need to make those designations? Sorry, I don't have it pulled up. Let me pull it up.
It's asking for a name.
Hang on.
Oh, Assistant Superintendent of HR.
Okay, so, and then you did mark all of those. Okay, are there any questions about any of those selections that were made? All right. Item 4.04 is policy 5772 and 7217 and regarding weapons, and this is is this the replacement? Hold on. So this is the replacement for the policy that was rescinded. And, yep, so the superintendent has made, as it recommended, the Neola recommendations, and then checked the boxes. Are there any questions about those selections or changes to the policy? Okay,
I had one question.
okay.
On page 2 of 3,
Mhm.
under B, the only exceptions to the prohibition set here in 4 include the following. And B is a student, and we strike out 18 years of age or older, may carry a firearm in a case to a career center having a firearms training range.
I'm looking for Frank, but when we spoke about letter B, this would be in a situation where there would be a law enforcement academy or a student that is participating in some type of law enforcement academy where they would have a firearm that is unloaded, locked securely in a case, bringing it to the training center for range practice.
We should probably say that then, may carry a firearm
Yeah, because it's,
unloaded in a secured case.
because the unloaded is crossed out.
Yeah, okay.
So I think it's,
I
All right,
mean,
we
obviously,
will
when
make
they would
those
get to
changes.
the range, they could load it, but if they were coming or going, they would have to lock it
Yes.
unloaded.
Yes. Most range rules require that the firearm be unloaded as you come upon the range within the scope of the range rules. However, we can definitely get that taken care of, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we're going to be adding it back in.
Yes, an unloaded, locked firearm, or however you want to word that.
Yeah, we'll get that, yep.
All right. Item 4.05 is policy 5782, parent guardian notification and permission for school-sponsored events and activities. This is a new policy. Are there any questions or comments about this policy from the board? All right. Item 4.06, which is policy 6324, cone of silence. Are there any questions or comments about this policy? Okay. We will accept the new Neola and staff recommendations on this. And that wraps up our policies. We will, of course, the board and the public will see these back again at a board meeting a couple of times. Are there any other questions, comments from the board at this time before we move? Okay, this workshop is now adjourned. We will take a quick break and then we will convene our special meeting. Sorry. We're going to call this meeting of the Martin County School Board to order. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Have a motion by Ms. Russell, a second by Mr. DiTerlizzi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 3.01 is the Western Zone Supplement grievance. Does any of the board members, did you want to say anything about this, Mr. Main, or do we just? need
No,
to-
I think the board is aware and of the latest. We're just looking for direction on the two recommendations there, either number 1 or 2, the pleasure of the board, and staff will proceed forward as, at the pleasure of the board.
Okay, did anybody want to make any comments about it, or do I have a motion either way?
I make a motion to proceed to arbitration.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Pritchett, a second by Mr. DiTerlizzi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, item 3.02 is the 23 to 26 agreement between SPAM and the School Board of Martin County. Dr. Miller?
Thank you. Yes, good evening, Madam Chair, Mr. Superintendent, members of the board. It has been my pleasure to work with our team and the team from SPAM, including James Jones, and he and his wife are here this evening from SPAM. We've been working together for a while to put this agreement together, and we've heard what the board has to say. We've been listening to the needs of SPAM, and we think we have a great agreement before you this evening.
Are there any questions from the board about this item? Ms. Roberts? No? Okay.
Move approval.
I have a motion by Ms. Roberts, a second by Ms. Pritchett. So I just have one quick question. So all the questions about insurance and all of that have been resolved, and everybody is good, and we're
Go ahead.
Good evening,
James Jones,
Madam
President
Chair.
of SPAM.
Oh, wait, hang on one.
Do you want me to go?
I'll let, you can go ahead and speak. I'll
Oh,
let you
okay.
go.
Yeah, so we just submitted a quote, and it was reviewed, and so there's one open item on it with the auto insurance that I'm trying to follow up on. So as soon as we can get that resolved, I think we'll be good on the insurance.
Okay. Did you have anything further to add?
No, I was just going to add, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Maine, Don Calderon, Director of Risk Management, Employee Benefits. But yeah, Mr. Jones had just provided it to us. We took a look at the quote, just missing the one auto insurance. We'll get that worked out, but we've worked together and we'll end up meeting the requirements of the MOU.
Perfect. All right. So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor,
Before we go
Mr.
any further, well, it's actually separate from this agreement, but
We'll
regarding.
go ahead and vote
Yeah,
on
go
it,
ahead
and then
vote. Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
talk about it.
Mhm.
You can say.
Yes.
So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Mr. DiTerlizzi.
So, Madam Chair, I think with all good intent, we're entering into this agreement, and I'm thankful for all your support and for SPAM's interest and support also. But I have a concern because we're moving forward in a partnership with them, and I'm thankful for it. But as a landlord myself, when I prepare a site for a tenant to move into, we have a robotics team that needs robots. We have an unlevel floor in there, and I'm wondering if we can assist them. They're kind of tapping out. We had them paint the facility, and I'm wondering if we can assist them with the leveling where it's unlevel, so that they can actually operate robots and test robots there in the area of the room that's unlevel. And then when it comes time to doing a floor of some sort in that room, then maybe we can help them raise funds, or we can ask some of our vendors if they're willing to assist in, or maybe, individually, we can find sponsors to help them with the floor. But as far as leveling the floor, for them to be able to get in there and do exactly what they need to do, I'm kind of asking for help here.
So I'm not opposed to that. I think that that's something that would stay with the building, no matter who's using the building. We need a level floor. But we obviously would need to know how much that's gonna cost and, what we're looking at. So I guess we will task the superintendent with that. Do we have a timeline for moving in?
I'm James Jones, President of SPAM. So they're supposed to start painting this week. So assuming that we can get the insurance resolved within a week or two, I think we were targeting starting to move in first part of December. We'll probably start moving things partially before then, but trying to really start to get the field set up first part of December. So, in terms of what we looked at on the floor, we got a quote for doing some partial grinding and patching some areas, which would make it better. That quote was $4,000. And I believe the school district has been looking at getting an alternate quote for floating the floor, at least where the field would be, and which would be a better solution potentially. But I don't believe we've got a cost on that yet.
Okay, so, do we want to give some parameters for the superintendent to be able to make this decision? We don't meet again until the middle to end of December. Ms. Roberts?
Mark, did you have something you wanted to add, maybe, about flooring and?
So Brian's actually been dealing with Mark Secret's Director of Facilities. I've been working with Brian. He's the Director of Maintenance. He's actually been trying to get some of our vendors to provide a quote, but we don't have a quote yet to actually go in and level that floor. But I know it's gonna involve grinding and filling in and then maybe some leveling to get that area flat. It's not that the floor is not flat, but it's not flat enough for the robots.
Right.
So that's the issue.
We can't just pour that stuff that you pour on the floor. Okay, so, I guess we have a workshop early December would be the quickest. I don't know if you would get a quote quicker than that anyway with the Thanksgiving holiday. So I guess as soon as you get a quote, we'll start communicating and you can share that and then we can discuss it. And if we need to vote on that or if it's something within your guidelines, then you just let the board know and then we'll go from there. Okay, thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, item 3.03 is the proposed calendar for 24-25. Dr. Miller.
Yes, thank you. So I want to thank the board members and AFSCME and MCEA for sending me once again an amazing committee. We met in October to put together a calendar that complies with board policy and all the rules and requirements that we have to follow. So before you this evening is that calendar, both in the draft form, the multiple pages that you see on each month-by-month calendar that was kind of our working document, and then a sample of what it might look like for parents. Obviously, when we send out to the community, it's in English and Spanish, so we provided the English version for you of what it might look like to go out to parents on a one-page form. So we do have a few members of the committee who are here this evening, and we have Mrs. Pritchett, who was the board representative, so thank you for being part of this work as well. And I can answer any questions that any board members may have.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? Ms. Roberts?
I'm looking at your 2 emergency makeup days, and I know we've been through this in multiple gyrations, but I know it becomes an issue when we list it as a solid blue day. It makes it appear that that's going to be a day that's off. And then when we say, oh, no, you didn't read the little asterisk, you didn't see the little. So I was wondering, is there any way we can make that green or some other color and kind of highlight that that could be something that's different?
So we did take that into consideration, and so in the writing it says day off, teachers and students, or emergency makeup day, and then it's both blue and red with a red box around it to delineate that it's different than a regular day. So that was the way that we tried to draw attention to it. Also taking into consideration the feedback that we've received with the way that we publicized it this year with the days for next week. That might have been emergency makeup days should we have needed them for the week of Thanksgiving. So we did try to delineate that it is both a potential emergency makeup day and also a day off depending on what happens as the school year unfolds.
Right, so when I'm looking at November, at the end of November, when we're saying November 23 to December 1st, Thanksgiving break, teachers and students off. But then up above that, I'm saying, oh, but wait a minute, the 25th might not be. I think that's where we get the blowback and the,
Wait, you're looking at December, but we're looking at,
no, I'm looking at November.
yeah.
And it says on the little list on the side, it says November 1, day off, teachers and students, or emergency makeup day. 6, high school conference night, et cetera. 25, Thanksgiving break or emergency makeup day. And then 23 to December 1, Thanksgiving break, teachers and students off. I'm just looking at how that's communicated.
So, I thought I know I spoke to Jen, I know she's not here, but I spoke to her early in the year, just as a reminder. I think it's just a good reminder that we send out a reminder to parents that these are potential days. So please don't, if we have a hurricane, you need to get clearance from the school district before you plan your trip. But one of the things that I don't know that we have enough emergence. I honestly believe we should designate possibly those 3 days of the Thanksgiving break as emergency days, because the other one, the first, we could have a hurricane and not know how many days we're gonna.
And I would actually prefer to do 25, 26, 27, and take that as a block of makeup days, but color them differently. I mean, color them green or something so it doesn't look like. And don't list that Thanksgiving break starts on the 23rd. I mean, I think when you're saying Thanksgiving break starts on the 23rd, and then you're saying, oh, but by the way, you might have to be here.
Yeah, I don't know that color coding them is gonna be, maybe. I don't want parents to get confused about the different colors because they are could be, I don't know, maybe parents should tell us what, any parents want to tell us what they think about this?
I'm Kelly Garner. I'm a parent and a member of the committee as well. To me, we over-communicate. There are people, you are never going to reach everybody. There is no way, no how everyone out there is going to ever say to you, oh, I totally got it. But we have communicated through text, through Facebook, through Twitter, through all the things about these emergency days this week, and there are still people who will tell you they don't know. You can color code them whatever you want. You can make them purple, you can make them flashing with lights. If you want to know the information, it's very easy to find. I don't think color coding, make them whatever color you want. I don't think that's the important part of it, to be perfectly honest. It says emergency makeup days. We are teaching our children to read in school. We want them to read all the words, to follow things. We should expect that of our parents.
Well, and I do, I tend to agree with you. I do think we should have those 3 days as potential makeup days. However, I like sending a text message. I think the majority of people, not all, because we're still going to get questions, that will more than likely at the beginning of hurricane season read the text message that says these are hurricane makeup days. If you're planning, possibly plan for your student to be absent from school, which quite honestly, if they're going to take off the week of Thanksgiving, they would be absent. They would do it anyway. So, I don't know, what do you guys think? Do we want to keep the first as well?
I think we group them together. Sorry. I think you group them together.
I'm happy with getting rid of the first and making them 25, 26, 27, and keeping 3 in a row.
Where's the third one? I saw the first and
November
second.
1st.
No, I saw that, and then the 26th. I'm sorry, 25th.
There is no third one.
There is no third one. Okay, so it's just 2 days.
It's just 2 right now.
Okay, yeah.
And then change that Thanksgiving break, teachers and students off, to 28, to December 1st, teachers and students off.
What day is Thanksgiving next year?
It's on a Thursday.
It's on the 28th.
The 28th.
On the 28th.
Put a color coordinator on that, too?
Thank you, appreciate it. So, yeah, those first 2 days before would, if necessary, sure,
3.
3 days.
Mike, it's one of the blue days.
I understand that, and you have them as, with the red surrounding the box. I understand it, but we only 2 and we're going to 3, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm good, I understand it.
And getting rid of November 1st.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
As an emergency makeup day or as a day off?
As an emergency makeup day.
To recap, the first will be a regular blue day, and we will remove the words "or emergency makeup day." November 25, 26, 27 is the board's preference to have them be green or blue with the red outline for the 25, 26, 27.
I'm fine with the way you have it with the emergency makeup day identified.
So 25, 26, 27 would say Thanksgiving break or emergency makeup day. And then 28 through December 1 underneath would say Thanksgiving break, teachers and students off. Is that correct?
Yes. Question, comment?
Can I say, is that okay?
Yeah.
Again.
Just say your name for the record.
Kelly Garner, sorry. From a parent's perspective, and I'm a substitute teacher, so I can throw that one out there too. I would leave the first as your emergency makeup day and not put it on that Wednesday. That Wednesday before Thanksgiving, you're gonna have so many people out and you are not going to be able to fill those spaces. And the first, I mean, if we need to make up one day, that's an easy day. People aren't, that's a Friday, nobody else is gonna be off. I would leave if you want 3 days, I would leave the first and do the Monday and Tuesday and have the Wednesday off. It's gonna be very, very hard for you. I mean, I don't know any sub that would take that job on a Wednesday, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Well, and to your point, like in this year and in past years, the governor has given state employees off the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So all state offices are closed this year as they were in some prior years, so it might not.
Whatever you all want to do.
I agree with you on that.
So the 1st, the 25th, and the 26th will be emergency makeup days. And the 27th will be a day off, just a blue day. Is that okay with the board? All right. So we'll make those changes. Any other questions or comments about this?
No.
Do I have a motion to approve the calendar with the changes?
Motion to approve the calendar with the changes.
Second?
I have a motion by Ms. Pritchett, a second by Mr. Dieterlisi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 3.04 is personnel recommendations. Ms. Armstrong, it has you listed, but unless there are any questions from the board. Did you want to say?
Nope, I could represent the item if needed. It's Stacy Reese, interim assistant principal for South Fork High School.
Are there any questions, comments from the board? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Dieterlisi, a second by Ms. Russell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Did you want to say anything, Superintendent Mayne?
Yes, ma'am. I do not believe Stacy is here, but we are excited to have her join our South Fork family. She is longtime administrator, former administrator in the Martin County School District, and will be rejoining us. And since our SPAM folks are here, she holds Georgia Tech certification in robotics, and so that'll be a welcome addition to the South Fork family. So we're happy to have her aboard.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Next, we have public comment. First up is Mr. Smithson.
I haven't bothered you guys in a long time. No. Okay, Mr. Maine, Madam Chair, members of the school board. I was just wondering if, you'd given any more consideration to bringing back some, if not all, of the books that were taken off our shelves the last couple of years. I'd like to know why some Florida school districts, St. Lucie County, I'm just going to name one, but there are others, were able to keep many of the books that are banned here on their shelves in their media centers. This board is able to satisfy, just like they did, all of your constituents by creating restricted areas in our meeting centers, excuse me, and put the onus on the parents to determine which access their children should have, either full access, non-restricted access, or no access at all. I think it's a very simple solution, and I know I brought it up before, and I just wanted to know if any consideration is going to be done, because it really is frustrating that we have a small group that has been putting these bans in, taking them off the shelves. All right, from what I've seen in the last 5 or 6 months at the meetings, the majority of the people that spoke were against the bans that were taken off. So we can still satisfy both constituents by having a restricted area in the media centers, so that if a parent is afraid that they're going to read some objectionable book, they won't have access to that area of the media center. I really think you need to take another look at that. What bothers me the most is that the vast majority of speakers, like I said, voiced objections to the book bans versus the smaller segment of the community. And I'm going to say, I'm not attacking the individuals, but I am saying a deep concern for the organization Moms for Liberty, where most of those ban requests came in from. All right? I mean, it's no secret that they have an extremist agenda, and it was also so identified by the Southern Poverty Law Center because of their anti-woke and anti-LGBTQ rhetoric, and we can see that by the books that are banned. Most of them have to do with race and LGBTQ issues. So a year ago, the group celebrated a wave of school board victories, but in Tuesday's elections, this past election cycle, the majority of more than 130 candidates the group endorsed in school board elections across the country lost. Every single candidate endorsed by Moms for Liberty in Minnesota, Kansas, North Carolina, and Washington lost their race. The group backed 14 candidates in Iowa, but only one was successful. Similarly, in Virginia, just one of the 6 candidates endorsed by the group won her race. The group supported 25 candidates across Ohio, and 5 won. 19 candidates were endorsed for school boards in New Jersey, but only...
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Carol Saki?
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Currently, across town, negotiations are taking place between the teachers of Martin County and the district. It is well past time that the district does everything in its power to compensate our educators for the heavy lifting they've been asked to do for years. In 2018, the school board came to us, the taxpayers, and asked us to help bridge the gap after years of underfunding from Tallahassee. The taxpayers answered that we love our teachers and students and stepped up with 2 self-inflicted taxes. We now have 2 new schools, a new gym, a ball field at South Fork, and infrastructure throughout the district thanks to the sales tax. Our educators receive a stipend that we, the taxpayers, fund to fill a part of the gap in compensation. That stipend comes from us, not the district. It should not be considered part of the compensation package during negotiations. It has been 5 years since those taxes were approved, but they are not open-ended. At the state delegation meeting, no request was made by the district of our legislators to allocate more funds for teacher pay and help us compete. I certainly hope that since this district doesn't feel the need to pressure our lawmakers for better funding, you certainly won't come back to us and ask us to fund the stipends again. The district is spending surplus funds for all kinds of administrative purchases, like communication apps, giving raises to members of the administrative staff, and this board approved a significant raise for a new superintendent. It is time the district treated our educators commiserate to the rhetoric about being the backbone of our success. It is true, they are, and you need to treat them as such. Perhaps then we won't continue to see the exodus of our best heading north and south of what was once the best district in the area. Perhaps if we retain our best, pay them like our neighboring counties, let them actually use their education to reach students instead of the current environment of micromanagement, we might actually get back to the district too many seem to think we still are. Again, the millage is not open-ended, and it's time for this district to push the state to open the surplus budget, pay teachers accordingly, and relieve us, the Martin County taxpayers, from funding your shortfalls. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that wraps up public comment, and we're going to move on to open to the board. I just had one item and just really kind of wanted to, I know that you all have been hearing from our consultant in Tallahassee about the deregulation discussion that has been going on. And essentially, there have been 3 bills filed. And it really, I think, is really important for us to support those in that it's the attempt is being made specifically on the Senate side to create a more level playing field between us and charter schools so that we're kind of all treated equally. And one of those really important meetings is coming up. And I just want to have consensus from the board that it's okay for our consultant to waive in support of that. And so that they move forward, so that they know, obviously, this is not the final product, and I think there's going to be a lot of compromise. I don't think the House is probably going to accept what the Senate is proposing 100%, but it's a starting point, and I want them to feel that and know that we are supporting them in their effort to create that level playing field. So can we just say yes to, everybody just let us know that you agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and I agree also. So thank you all very much. I appreciate that, and I will let Greg know. Any other comments from the board? All right, seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much. See you next week.